News broke last week that a popular YouTuber who goes by the name Destiny is getting divorced. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't know anything about Destiny. The name sounds familiar, like someone's probably come up during this segment in the past, but I couldn't tell you much about him. What I do know is that apparently his wife is leaving him, and I also know that by his own admission, he had been in an open marriage, quote unquote. Here's the Daily Caller with the details. The wife of popular streamer and YouTuber Destiny, who previously bragged about the pair's open marriage, is reportedly leaving him for a man she met in Sweden, according to online reports. Screenshots from what appears to be messages from Destiny in a Discord channel show him complaining about his wife, Swedish internet personality Melina Goransson, and her alleged new lover. In the leaked Discord chat, Destiny appeared to lament his wife's choice to leave him for a toxic, abusive guy. Quote, "The last 2 months and 2 weeks have been a massive mind F for me, watching her become obsessed with a toxic, abusive guy. When I visited Sweden last, he gave Mel an ultimatum to divorce me and then threatened to kill himself when she didn't do it, among 20 other abusive, manipulative things he's done, and endlessly makes excuses for him, so I'm out," the political YouTuber appeared to write, according to the Twitter post. Now, in the past, Destiny had been very open about his open relationship, appearing on different podcasts to talk about it. So here he is with Lex Friedman a year or two ago, along with his wife, explaining their open arrangement. Watch.
One interesting aspect of your relationship is you're in an open relationship. Mm-hmm. What's that like? From a game theoretic simulation perspective, what went into that calculation? And like, how does that...
Like how that started? Or
yeah, how did that start? Sure.
The only relationships I've ever done has been open relationships since I was like in high school. Because I didn't really understand like why wouldn't you be able to like do other things with other people, but then just like have your main partner basically.
So what is an open relationship, generally speaking? That means you have one main partner?
Non-monogamous relationship. Like you're somehow allowed like in different ways. You can see other people sexually. Sexually,
but like there's one main
or it doesn't have to be there for some people, but like okay. I think it's probably easier and we probably don't really have time or the energy for like more than like one person to like really like...
Well, I said that Destiny explains the arrangement, but actually, as you heard, his wife does most of the talking. And that's interesting because though I don't know who first decided to open the marriage in his case, I do know that most of the time, one participant will seem to be much more into the idea than the other. That's because an open relationship is rarely a mutual decision, no matter what they might claim. Both spouses are not usually going to simultaneously come up with the idea that they should have sex with other people and then in unison blurt it out. In reality, one or the other is going to make this proposal. And the one who makes it, in doing so, has already announced that they want to have an affair. So if the other supposedly agrees to the open marriage, they'll agree as someone who is shell-shocked and blindsided and devastated, whether they fully reveal those feelings or not. Now, speaking of feelings, in that same interview, they talk about the complicated, quote-unquote, problem of emotional attachments in an open marriage. Listen.
What about, like, emotional?
It's really complicated. There's a lot of complicated stuff going on under the hood there.
Yeah.
I think broadly speaking, you've got like polyamorous relationships and you've got like open relationships where polyamorous is like, oh, I've got like 3 different girlfriends and we all hang out or sometimes even live together or 3 boyfriends, whatever. And then you've got like open relationships, which is like, oh, you know, like you can basically hook up with other people and then you've got like your main relationship and that's it. I think ours is probably somewhere in the middle of that, to where like we've got like long-term friends, some of them we hook up with, and that's kind of how we, it's a delicate dance that explodes every 6 months on itself.
So it does explode. You guys fight over it?
We fight over some things, yeah. Things happen, yeah.
I think it's mostly because a lot of people can't handle it, and they agree to something, and then they realize that we're way too cool, and then they get really obsessed, and they think that they can like get in there, and then it gets really dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys experience jealousy?
Usually, like whenever I feel like he's not spending the amount of time that I'm asking for, and he spends it on his video games or his stream, or like he sees someone else like more than he sees me or something like that, that would like not be good because then it affects like our relationship.
Now, obviously, the whole idea of an open marriage is absurd. Not just absurd; it's a contradiction in terms. Marriage cannot be open like a square cannot be circular. It's not because we've come up with arbitrary rules to stifle a square's creativity and individuality. It's just because a square is a certain thing. And by definition, if it's circular, it's not the thing that a square is. The same is true of marriage. A marriage that is open is no longer the thing that a marriage is. Cozy Earth's sheets are the most luxurious sheets I've ever owned. My wife and I have their white bamboo sheets, and when I say that they're the softest sheets we've ever owned, I mean it. These bamboo sheets are temperature regulating, which help us both sleep better at night. If you're a hot sleeper or a cold sleeper, whatever it is, you can be comfortable at night, especially during these cold winter nights. Cozy Earth Sheets offers an array of sizes and 11 colors to match your unique style and preferences. Their sheets are made to withstand the test of time. My Cozy Earth sheets get softer and softer with every wash. But don't just take my word for it. They have over 5,000 happy customer reviews on their site. So what are you waiting for? Cozy Earth offers a 100-night guarantee, so there's no harm in trying them out. Make every night a cozy one with Cozy Earth. Right now, you'll save 40% off your next purchase with promo code Walsh40 at CozyEarth.com. That's Walsh40 at CozyEarth.com. Christmas is coming, and while you're out shopping for your family and friends, don't forget to shop for your pets too. Give your dog the gift of a healthier and happier life with Rough Greens. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the founder of Rough Greens, is focused on improving the health of every dog in America. Before I started feeding my dog Rough Greens, I had no idea that dog food is dead food. It contains very little nutritional value. Think about it. Nutrition isn't brown, it's green. So let Rough Greens bring your dog's food back to life. Rough Greens is a supplement that contains all the necessary vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega oils, digestive enzymes, and antioxidants that your dog needs. You don't have to go out and buy new dog food. You just sprinkle Rough Greens on their food every day. Dog owners everywhere are raving about Rough Greens. It supports healthy joints, improves bad breath, boosts energy levels, and so much more. We are what we eat, and that goes for dogs too. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black is so confident Rough Greens will improve your dog's health. He's offering my listeners a free Jumpstart trial bag so your dog can try it. Get a free Jumpstart trial bag delivered straight to your door in just a few business days. Go to roughgreens.com/Matt or call 844-ROUGH-700. That's ruffgreens.com/Matt or call 844-ROUGH-700 today. So I've explained before that a marriage can't be open for the same reason that you can't build a house without walls or a roof. The walls and the roof are the whole point of the house. So get rid of those, and now you're homeless. A blanket laid out on the pavement is not an open house or a new house or a consensually non-walled house. It's just not a house. It's a non-house. A marriage cannot be open. The whole point of the union is that it is closed. It is exclusive. It has walls around it. Tear down the walls and you have obliterated the entire structure of the thing. But I don't need to harp anymore on that point, that marriages are an oxymoron, a self-contradiction. I probably also need to explain that infidelity doesn't become something other than infidelity just because it's mutual and consensual, supposedly, and happening out in the open. Unfaithfulness is unfaithfulness. Cheating is cheating. You haven't found some ingenious way of gaming the system simply by announcing that you're going to cheat, rather than doing it, in secret as adulterers have traditionally done. Infidelity is a cancer in your marriage that will eventually kill it. The fact that you have embraced the cancer and welcomed it doesn't make your situation any less terminal. There's a reason why you never hear about couples celebrating their 50th anniversary of an open marriage. Because open marriages burn quickly and then burn out. They can't be sustained, as Destiny is apparently finding out. He says himself in that interview that it explodes every 6 months. Well, that's not normal. Your marriage should not explode every 6 months. And that cannot be sustained. Like one day it's going to explode and you're not going to be able to put it back together again. And that's going to happen pretty quickly. Now, however, as I said, these are points that probably don't need to be dwelled on. Instead, I'd like to briefly consider one other, perhaps slightly more interesting or surprising point. You heard in the last clip, as Destiny and his wife talk about how they deal with emotions. And Destiny said, it's really complicated. His wife talked about the problems of jealousy. And this is something you hear pretty often from open marriage advocates. In fact, any discussion about open marriages will always ultimately center around the problem of feelings and emotions. That's why if you go to Google, you'll find hundreds of articles about how to deal with emotions in an open relationship. Articles like this one from Elite Daily titled, 5 Ways to Handle Jealousy in Open and Poly Relationships According to Experts. Now, we're not going to go through all 5 coping mechanisms as outlined by experts, but here's the first one. Quote, communication is the foundation of any relationship, and it's even more important when there's more than 2 in a relationship. So if there's an issue, particularly jealousy, you need to talk about it. Courtney Watson, a poly-inclusive sex therapist, breaks the process down to Elite Daily in 4 steps. Clarify your feelings of jealousy and explore where they're coming from. Arrange a time to sit down with your partner. Pick a neutral setting, especially outside the bedroom, where you have enough time and privacy to discuss your feelings. Tell your partner and negotiate a solution that addresses your feelings and takes into consideration their feelings and needs. See if the solution works and reconvene as needed. Now, if that sounds like useless nonsense, then wait until you hear the next recommendation, which says this: rewrite your jealousy narrative. Another way to get to the bottom of this is to outline your jealousy, literally. With your partner or alone, make a little guidebook to your jealous feelings and then rewrite it. Quote, draw a picture or describe in detail a personified version of jealousy to clarify how you experience and relate to the feeling, they said. What does your depiction of jealousy look like and sound like? Is jealousy bigger or smaller than you? Do you get along well or hate each other? Are they angry, mean, scared? What do they tend to say to you? What are your physical cues that jealousy is present? Once you have a good sketch of your jealousy narrative, as Sketchinger calls it, work on reframing it in a less threatening way. Confront what you've laid out and reevaluate what about these attributes or behaviors makes you less jealous. Quote, when met with support and non-judgment, the discomfort generated by envy and jealousy can increase self-awareness and highlight a need that may not be being met. So just to make sure we're all on the same page here, what this expert is suggesting is that you draw a picture for your spouse to help explain why you're sad when she has sex with other men. So grab some colored pencils and draw a picture of like a big scary monster and hand it to your wife and say, this is how I feel when you commit adultery. It makes me scared and sad. This is how the relationship experts think that adults should communicate with one another. Now, this advice obviously is terrible, but there's something to be learned from the fact that this advice is given in the first place and that there's so much of this kind of advice for those looking to open their relationships. A recent post on Medium has this headline: How to work through difficult emotions in open relationships, using a Buddhist practice as a tool to explore feelings. Well, yes, you can use Buddhist practices. You can draw pictures. You can climb to the top of a mountain and consult with a polyamorous guru. Or you can just stop trying to force yourself to be okay with something that you know is not okay. Okay, that's the point. We often say, and I've certainly said this, that people these days are always chasing their feelings, doing whatever makes them feel good. Well, what we find is that in so many cases, something closer to the opposite is actually happening. Oftentimes, especially when it comes to sex and relationships, people are running away from their feelings. They're running away from what would actually make them feel good. They're trying to close themselves off from their natural emotions. This is necessary in order to maintain a promiscuous lifestyle. Whether you're in a so-called open relationships or you're just participating in hookup culture without pretending to be in any relationship at all, in either case, you are going to be constantly at war with your own emotions. You're not really following your feelings. You're following pleasure, temporary physical pleasure, but not emotions. Emotions are an obstacle. You have to close yourself off from developing connections to anyone. You have to be emotionless. And that's because as human beings, we naturally desire a committed, loving, faithful relationship with one person who is devoted to us and loves us in return. That's what we all want. It's what our hearts long for. If you're actually following your feelings, that's where it would lead you. Now, you can't be guided entirely by your emotions in a relationship, but you shouldn't see them as an impediment either, or as some kind of enemy. The emotional attachment that naturally forms with another person, who you're in a sexual relationship with, that's a good thing. It's natural. It's human. And that's why, unlike destiny, I would never say that my emotions for my wife are complicated. Like if I was talking to Lex Friedman and he said, what about emotions in your marriage? What? Oh, it's complicated. Man, there's a lot going on there. It's really complicated. It's actually not complicated at all. Sure, we have tension and disagreement sometimes, like any married couple, but there's nothing very complicated about our emotional situation. I love my wife. I like being around her. It's actually pretty simple. Our emotions aren't complicated, which isn't to say that they're superficial or insignificant. No, your emotional attachment to your spouse is a simple thing, but it's also deep and profound. It's something that you nurture, something to be cherished. Feelings are not a problem if you're in a monogamous, committed, loving relationship. You don't need experts to tell you how to navigate them. And you don't need to draw pictures to explain them. That only becomes necessary when you've decided to do something that you know in your heart you shouldn't be doing. Feelings are a problem once you've decided to sever love from sex and commitment from relationship and attempt to experience these things separate from each other. It can never work. And if you listen to your common sense, you would know that. And if you listen to your feelings, you would know that too. Which is why, in the end, open marriages are, once again, today canceled. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.